this out, and this is probably going to be a theme basically we're going to have to bring up throughout the entire event, but we've had a major change, a major update in StarCraft 2.
That's right, yeah.
And, we're currently in the highest stakes StarCraft 2 tournament in the world.
Yeah, the patch is like a week old at this point officially.
Yeah.
So it is kind of new territory. I mean, the pros have had access to it for a while, but certainly we're going to be seeing some new strategies here.
It's going to be a different kind of cast for us. It's going to be one that's going to be a little bit more exploratory here, as we're going to see what new ideas are going to be at play.
Well, you want to talk about exploratory? That is a Forge, my friend.
Yeah.
It looks like we're going to see some cheese coming out of Classic here.
Yeah, gateway into Forge. Now, cannon rushes have always been a thing, especially in StarCraft 2, but let's see, what exactly is going to be a play here.
Dude, I love this. Oh,
okay.
my God. Sneaking around the side.
Yeah, he's going to park the probe over here at what could be a third base in the future of this. Excuse me, no, goes around and actually gets behind that and puts the pylon just wedged up between the gas and that ledge. And it looks like this has moved through a blind spot for where Scarlett is. So Scarlett is going to be hit very hard here, and this game could be grinded to a halt very quickly.
Beautifully planned out. Now, Scarlett sees the Forge, so she knows something is going on. Does she cancel the hatchery? Does she let the hatchery finish? We're going to see here momentarily. Okay, it finishes, but with the double cannon already started, this hatchery, I don't think that she has much of a chance of keeping it alive.
You basically have two choices in a moment like this. It's either you're going to do everything in your power to try to save the hatchery, or you have to simply give up and try to steer the game into another direction.
Well, I think that that's what she's probably going to do here. She is making just a handful of lings, a couple queens getting speed, re-expanding. Obviously this costs a lot for Protoss, but this is a good move. This is a great plan here from Classic, and he's going to take the early advantage in this game.
Yeah, we've got the hatchery already at half health. There is no way to reverse this. Obviously, the Protoss gives up something in order to try to get into a position like this, but I think Classic is going to have a pretty smooth game from here on out.
I think so. I think so. And, I mean, it's great planning that has taken place here from Classic. A great way to open game number one after sending his probe to block the natural hatchery, having that area that he went through, the blind spot. Fantastically done, and as he kills that hatchery, he's got to be feeling nice.
One thing to note here for Scarlett is she will be able to eliminate this cannon rush with basically no cost because of the angle that the pylon's at and the fact that the cannons can't actually cover the pylon that's powering it. I gotta say, obviously it's bad that she lost the hatchery, but this is probably the best bad situation you could be in post-cannon rush. The cannons are already unpowered, and obviously the cannons will be wiped out shortly after that. But yeah, it's going to be at least a decent situation, all things considered, after Scarlett loses that hatchery.
Yeah, there's still plenty of play in the position, right? Like it's not like the game is completely over for Scarlett. Although I mean, if she was analyzing, she'd be like, "Yeah, I'm dead here." But here she plays on. So
analyzing games, like, well, I lost 2 lings there. Now I'm probably going to lose.
But you know what? It's very clean, the follow-up here from Classic, right? He didn't even make a cannon. So he has this super well planned out. The first Oracle is popping, and I think he can just go into a pretty standard game here with Scarlett just kind of being behind.
Yeah, now one thing to notice, just to go big picture for a second, obviously pretty much every game Zerg wants to get 3 bases right away, but because of that cannon rush, it forced Scarlett into a bit of an uncomfortable spot. Her third base is square in the middle, or almost in the middle, I guess you could say, of the map, and that's going to be, there's going to be crosshairs on that here, from the Protoss's perspective.
Oh, for sure,
Especially from Classic. We know Classic is somebody who very much likes to win games with these window timings. And so we want to watch this base very carefully and see what angles Classic may try to come in here and punish that. A lot of cannon rush games, they're basically setup plays. I mean, occasionally we see games that just end outright from a cannon rush, but usually what it is that you've already made a potentially paralyzing or crippling blow to the Zerg, and then the follow-up is going to be the push later on.
And this is the standard way to harass a faraway base, is to make some Adepts, to make some Oracles. Those are the most, it's like the best way to kill drones, the best way to run around the map very quickly. And you can see a lot of pressure going down. 5 drones have died. Classic getting on top of this Spore now. Obviously the Queens have to come out and fight.
Yeah, and it looks like the Spore, Okay, going to come in here and try to get some drones. A bit of a misplay there from Scarlett, basically sending the drones in a little bit earlier. I was about to say that, there wasn't that much value gain there with the few adepts that came in, but between the adepts getting the drones and then those oracles picking off some drones, that's actually a pretty nice jab at Scarlett.
And including this third base that's already finished, like no probes there as of yet. Classic really has to be careful to make sure that this is well defended. There's a lot of lings right there. The oracles are going to come back. Looks like they have just enough energy that they probably can clear these out. But it's a beautiful game so far from Classic. Really amazingly planned.
So we've got the Warp Prism about to finish, and generally, for us viewers, that can telegraph the beginning of the push. We've got this synced up with 5 gateways that are about to be ready to warp in. And so, what we were talking about happening earlier on, it looks like we're finally going to be at that moment. We've got Sentries warping in now, and Immortal also on the way. +1 attack is finishing up, so I believe we're going to start to get to what could be the climax of this game.
I believe you're right about that. I mean, with the Immortals coming out, +1 attack is timed out perfectly here, just as this attack is going to hit. Classic is going to have that +1. And with the amount of Sentries he has, let's see what type of damage he can get done with this.
Okay, big warp in coming in here now. He's decided to come in here at the lower left side. It's a bit of a smaller entrance point, as you can see over here. But, it's also easy to retreat down and avoid any interactions that you don't want to have. The first Corrosive Bile comes out, he backs up. Note the Immortal way in the back here to make sure it can't just be targeted as easily. We want to watch the Warp Prism here as well. If there's going to be a warp in around here from Classic, it's possible Scarlett may try to dive with those Ravagers and pick that Warp Prism off.
Oh, that's for sure. He's spacing it very carefully. Slow Zealots being warped in to really tank a lot of the damage here. Keeping those Stalkers and Immortals alive, that's really the damage output that Classic has. And as he's picking off Roaches, Queens, Ravagers, all of that, Scarlett is in a tough place. She has very few units. There are more Roaches popping, but she's going to lose yet another hatchery, the second of the game here, before 8 minutes.
I don't know if there's going to be any way for Classic to lose this at this point in time. I mean, the sheer momentum of this push, the first hatchery goes down, drones are pulled. It's going to be a bit of a fight in this kind of narrow area down here, but it doesn't look like it's one that's going to be good for the Zerg. In fact, the Zerg fighting in more of a bottleneck position, allowing Classic to set up a pretty healthy arc where damage can be distributed very nicely here. I think this game's almost over, Artosis.
It is certainly over. Scarlett is about to GG here. There's just nothing left over. There you have it. Classic taking a dominating game number 1. Great prep coming into the series.
And in the upper left, our Zerg player from Canada, she is Scarlett.
You do have to feel for Scarlett a little bit here, right? She didn't, whatever she had planned, we don't know. She didn't get to do anything that she wanted to do in that game.
It's a really good point. It's worth pointing out that all losses are not metabolized equally from the receiving end. You can have a loss where you actually are almost okay with it because you played so well and you see exactly the small mistake you did and you know where to adjust. But I mean, anybody who's ever experienced, a cheese like that where your head's in, 10 minutes from now in the game and, where am I going to take my 5th base and how am I going to have that endgame tech and suddenly, cannons materialize and start to kill your base. That is psychologically very punishing for a player.
Yeah, I would certainly say that. And, is she going to tilt from there? I mean...
I don't think so. I mean, nobody takes it that well, but yeah.
No, I think that she can kind of dial herself in here, put out her best games, because I mean it's Katowice, man. You only get a couple chances, and I'm sure that she is really looking forward to hopefully getting through to that group round.
So everything so far, is looking pretty normal, right? We've got the Nexus being taken. It's going to be a fast expand game here. And so there's not really any way either of these players can interact with each other early on. We do have the second hatchery forced to go to the third base location, but honestly, at this level of play, that's not going to be too impactful.
No, certainly not. And I mean, this is as standard as it gets. We just kind of wait for that Cybernetics core to finish up. How many times have we said that, Tasteless?
Yeah.
The only way to make this more exciting is have a Reaper go and damage the links.
But, going back to what we had mentioned earlier on, it is, worth pointing out, Classic kind of built his name off of having these incredible timing attacks, having moments where he would have that pressure. In a lot of games, we have players that put pressure on, and it almost does nothing.
Sure.
He would always get, maybe 5%, 10% more damage in there, get an extra drone kill, and then very cleanly come out and go for the kill. And that, you know, there were periods where he was pretty much the guy when it came to Protoss, right? He was just an incredible player. Anybody who was a student of Protoss was also a student of Classic. But it did seem like post his military career, and by the way, just to be clear, all able-bodied Korean men do have to do about, I think it's 18 months now of military service in Korea. You can't make money during that time, so in other words, you can't pro game. Or you can't stream and make money. It's so, you know, this is always something that impedes on the career of any Korean pro gamer. He's finished that, but, you know, since he's been back, it does seem like we've had a little bit of a sloppier Classic in some games.
Yeah, but at the same time, I feel like he's done pretty darn well considering. Like, you remember that series against Zest. He had Zest dead, but you're right. He overextended a little bit. Zest was able to kill him. Zest was the best Protoss in the world at the time.
Sure.
So, like, I can't fault Classic coming right out of the military, having that happen. I mean, he made it into Super Tournament, which is already sick, but you go up against Maru. Maru's the best player in the world for my money, man.
Sure.
Like, so I'm not counting any of this stuff against him. I think that here at Katowice, we're going to see exactly what shape Classic truly is in.
You know, one thing that I've always found interesting with Scarlett, and I've had a lot of pros tell me this when they talk about her play, is that she's like, when it comes to any new RTS game, she is like one of the best people to talk to.
Yes.
She's somebody whose mind kind of wraps around the game very quickly. And keep in mind, you know, with this new patch, there's going to be a lot of new ideas introduced. Some are going to work, others are not. But I'm curious, now that we're in kind of a standard game, because, you know, the last game that we had with the Cannon Rush, that's, I mean, you know, you could have told somebody that there was no new patch, they wouldn't be able to tell, right? We've seen we've seen that kind of victory before. But I want to see how this game's going to pan out with her and all the new tools at her disposal.
Yeah. I was going to make a joke about, no, Tasis, I can see the difference in creep spread rate. But I'm
you
not
can't
do
tell that? I thought you cast this game. What's going on?
But right now, it looks like everything is pretty standard so far. A Robo coming up for Classic, a couple of Oracles flying around, no real damage getting down yet. Immortals being made. I mean, I don't think we're just going to see another Immortal-based timing attack. That would actually... But I mean, if you're making an Immortal right here, maybe.
It feels like it will be an Immortal-based timing attack, but...
I think it will be a much faster one if that's what's going to occur.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see what happens here. I mean, the Nexus is...
You know what? Yeah, I think it is going to be. Look at that. 2 sentries coming out as well.
Yeah. Everything lines up to a push, and here comes that Warp Prism now. So, you know, getting the Immortals out first, and then, you know, the follow-up with the Warp Prism later. Which of course can be used to juggle those Immortals in and out. Okay, this is a big deal because, you know, a lot of these battles are won off the backs of a few extra Queenslings or Roaches.
Yeah.
And to have a hiccup, you really can't be more stunned than that.
No,
you know,
for sure.
From the Oracle. So,
and that's right after losing like 7 drones to Adept Oracle.
Yeah.
Like this is pretty serious so far.
I mean, if you were going to do a case study on timing pushes and how to make them work, this is it.
Yeah.
You know, step by step. And so, you know, we're about to have this push come in the mail. Note that, you know, there's no probes being made. This third base is kind of a red herring from the Zerg's side, right? It's just there so that it looks like it's going to be more of an econ game, and we don't have any probes being made. This is actually a pretty strong push. Oh!
I love it, though. I love that he has that timing down just perfect, but still more lost mining time, and here comes that push now.
Yeah, the push is inbound, and a pretty comfortable angle here from Classic coming forward. Some force, just one force field comes down. And you can see Classic being very patient. He really wants to try to make sure the force fields are going to count. We see so many other Protoss players that spam it out and try to get a good pairing. But a lot of patience there from Classic. Another warping round coming in. This Warp Prism is out of range, and that is going to be that.
I am the swarm. Armies will be shattered. Worlds will burn.